Good day, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter at Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at the Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges. And subscribe to us wherever you listen.
And if you like this show, it's about time. Give us a 5-star review.
And as always, we talk judging in MMA, so make sure you read that scoring criteria.
Had a little wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man energy to that one.
Tube Man would be cool. Read it. Give us a 5-star review. Now, with the Tube Man.
What? What do you think I said?
You said we were wacky inflatable Tube Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To give us a 5-star review.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where I went. I obviously lost track of what you said.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, I'm coming off a busy weekend. As I was just telling you before we got on, that you are listening to the father of a Pinewood Derby champion.
Special.
It is special. It was special. It was a great time. My son's car smoked all the other cars. And then we raced my old cars against his, and he really smoked those. They were not as good.
Basically, the pound for pound Pinewood Derby car.
Yeah, honestly, if we were to equate my son's Pinewood Derby car to like the UFC, let's just do we'll do current pound for pound. It's easily a combination of both Islam and Volk.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's like one and two all in one package, and then everything else is just way down. Is what I'm saying. With maybe some, John Jones car coming in at some point to give us some trouble.
Well, John Jones is rightfully taking his crown back on next Saturday, so
maybe with a little eye poke action, little cheating.
No cheating, no cheating.
Eye pokes are illegal, sir.
He's not going to poke anybody in the eye.
Famous last words.
Not poking anybody in the eye.
Honestly, if we come back here next week and we're talking about a John Jones eye poke, you need to eat some serious crow.
There's not going to be an eye poke. I'm being positive. You stop being negative.
I'm just being realistic. But that's next week. We'll talk a little bit about next week's card as well at the end of the show, as we tend to do. But let's think about, this was a busy weekend in general for fights, because we had Bellator earlier. We had UFC a little later. So we got a bunch to talk about. I want to start on the Bellator side with the champion, Yaroslav Amosov. Really impressive return to the cage. And obviously really on the backdrop of him fighting for his country in Ukraine took very center stage. And honestly, I was very shocked at the not glossing over a lot of this that Bellator and Showtime did. I thought they did a really good job with the coverage because, look, they have a lot of Russians fighting for them right now, and it could be very easy not to go down that road, but they were very willing to put that out there. So I'm very surprised, but I thought they did a really great job with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it was good.
But Amosov himself, really, really impressive. What did you think about him?
That was a all-around, I guess, world-class performance.
It was just a total dismantling of the opponent in front of him. He didn't look like he belonged there.
Logan Storley, no.
He didn't even land a single Storley knee.
I don't think he had a chance to.
No, he didn't.
I mean, he wanted to take down, I think, round 3.
Yeah, he waited way too long.
Yeah,
they were right. They were right talking about that. He waited way too long.
He was outclassed.
And honestly, it's amazing he was able to do that after, again, a year away, in which I'm sure he did a good chunk of training, especially for this fight. But
we call this a vacation.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it really legitimately was. He was paid for it. But
I'm sure he had his fair share of fights before this actual fight.
You mean like skirmishes in Warzone?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what
probably.
Yes, I'm saying so. He being a year away from the cage, I guess, but not a year away from fighting.
No. But it's different because what I'm saying is especially that the skill erosion was not a thing. In fact, he looked kind of better.
He looked great.
Yeah. Where would you kind of sit him roughly in like the worldwide welterweight rankings now? You don't have to say like he's ahead of this guy, but behind them if you feel like you can. But those just like
obviously
top 5, top 10, top 20,
top 10 for sure.
Number 1 overall.
Probably top like 7.
Top 7 sounds
fair.
Top
7 somewhere in there.
I'm loath to put him at number 1, like Bellator's promoting. Although
there's
no reason they can't do that legitimately. As an organization, it's their prerogative to do that. I think sometimes it would strain credulity, but with him, if they feel like it, he's got an impressive enough record and he's coming off a great win. It's who's to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think realistically, it's hard to put him that much higher just yet. Probably needs to get a couple more wins against a lot more, noteworthy competition. I guess names were a little more respectful of in terms of what they've done in the sport. And nothing against Logan Storley. I know obviously that fight he had was terrible, but he also had some really fun fights in the past too. So, that one recent example where you, of course, took the Storley knees from, I don't think that's distinctly representative of the fighter himself. But it's, nonetheless, we still want to see. There are a lot of killers in the welterweight division of the UFC, and we don't really have that in Bellator right now. Is really what I'm getting at.
Should do some cross promoting.
Well, I'm not gonna get it with the UFC.
Well, the UFC would never do it, but they should.
I don't know what he would gain from beating anybody over at Bellator either, though. He had a lot more to lose than that. They'd have to pay him a lot of money.
It seems like he's ready to fight whoever.
Maybe they could, send over some artillery and tanks and things to Ukraine. That would probably get him to do it. But I just don't know how many tanks PFL had.
PFL?
Yeah. So to cross promote this kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say 0.
It's
it's almost definitely 0. But you're sitting there thinking like there might be one, but there's none.
Sadabusi? No.
He has no tanks.
Yeah, he doesn't have any tanks.
Yeah, but obviously Sadabusi would be the champion, the most recent champion anyway. There's no juice to that fight.
There isn't, no.
And Sadabusi, to be perfectly honest, is just not that entertaining a fighter either.
Entertaining at all.
Yeah, I could see this fight actually end up being it could actually, even if Amosov wins, he could lose here. That would be a tough one. But nonetheless, I think it's fair to put him definitely in the top 10. Top 7 roughly sounds pretty good off the top of my head. Ask me after Shavkat Rakhmonov fights this weekend, though.
What the Shavkat does this week, it could put welterweight into a very, very interesting area.
I have such high expectations out of him and his career. But again, that's later on. That's later on. We'll talk about that a little later. I don't want to get too far ahead. But that was really the main thing I wanted to talk about Bellator. Obviously, they did their kind of focus on a lot of the Irish fighters. Peter Queally came out. He did the walkout that everybody loves, and Bellator called it, or one of the Bellator reporters called it the greatest walkout in the sport. That's hyperbole, but it is really impressive.
It was cool watching Logan sing it while in the ring.
What I thought was cool was during the fight, they would sing it audibly, very loud. That was pretty cool. Didn't help him because he lost, but but that, I don't really have much more to say about the Bellator card other than, wow, we got a really impressive performance out of Amosov. And we will talk about some contested rounds from that as well. Dan and I kind of cherry picked a few that we'll get to. But I think we're going to focus at least on UFC, both a couple topics and contested rounds until we get around to those Bellator contested rounds. Over on the UFC side, mid-event, we lose the main event. This is not the first time it's happened recently for the UFC. Not a great look, but what can they do? I mean, I got sick. Nikita Krylov got sick, and the fight with Ryan Span's off. Did you miss that fight? Did you miss not having it?
No, I had to watch the event after it happened, so I was searching for it. I was like, where is this?
You didn't even know. You're like, where's this fight? Well, surprise,
so I had no
Dan.
Clue.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
You caught up with that.
Yeah, I figured it out.
but I mean, as far as I know...
Well, actually, you know how I figured it out?
How'd you figure it out?
I turned on Muniz and Brendan Allen, and I heard Bruce going through his main event routine. I'm like, wait, I guess what happened to the other fight? And then I Googled it, and it got canceled.
I see. Yeah, but, I mean, was that a fight you were kind of, hoping to watch, or do you just not even care?
I mean, it was a fine enough fight. It wasn't one I was, pumped for.
Sure.
Take it or leave it, so.
Not a great endorsement of the current UFC structure of their cards. If we lose the main event, and you're like, whatever.
That's how I feel about most main fight nights anyway.
I know, but that's a problem. I think that's terrible. Not your problem. I think it's the UFC's problem. They've created a lot of ambivalence to a lot of their product, and I don't know if they really understand how much they're probably hurting themselves in terms of brand value long term. That's how I see it.
I don't know if it's the UFC's problem or it's ESPN having them have to put this many events on.
Well, that's what it is. But they agreed to this deal. They said 40 fights, and they said, yeah, sure, we'll deliver.
I guess. I mean, you would think ESPN would be like, hey, do better. And it seems like they don't care too much either. So
they probably don't. It's probably not hurting their bottom line. They're happy to have the content, and it does well enough. But I'm just wondering how much it's going to hurt long term.
I don't see it hurting long term.
We'll see. We'll see the next time negotiations come around, I guess. Still a few years away. But the main event that we did get, though, I will say we've had some fights fall out before, and it was like, well, now we're left with Impa Kasanganai, right? Wasn't that the one?
Impa Kasanganai was a main event?
Am I thinking of the right one? I thought he did.
I don't think he ever main evented.
No,
He was a
put it up
contender
on me.
series guy.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong. No, I'm thinking of somebody else. Goodness, I'm blanking on who it was, but it was a fight last year, and it was no one gave a crap about that one. That's
Jessica I and Cynthia Calvillo?
No. We're trying to think it through here. I'm trying to work my way.
Was that even a
backward
fight?
Jessica I and Cynthia Calvillo was definitely a fight.
Yeah, that was the main event, right?
It was Kennedy and Zechiku and Iwan Kutelaba.
Okay,
That one.
gotcha.
Yeah, that is easily the worst main event in UFC history. It was by default. They didn't have any choice because the Derek Lewis Sergey Spivak fight fell out. That was in November, right after they had the big success with the Adesanya Pereira pay-per-view. This happens. But my point that I was really trying to make is at least Andre Muniz and Brendan Allen, I think, was a more interesting fight than that certainly was. Because I had high expectations out of Muniz, and then he absolutely dropped the ball.
For sure.
He didn't look very good, but Brendan Allen looked quite good.
Brendan Allen looked great.
Conversely, so. And I like Allen too. I didn't love this matchup because I thought that Muniz had deserved a higher caliber of opponent, but maybe he just wasn't ready for it. Maybe the UFC matchmakers actually knew something here.
They typically do a good job.
Here and there.
I think the UFC matchmakers know their fighters pretty well.
I think they do. I think they're probably the best at what they do that are still in the sport. I thought Joe Silva did a better job of putting together the right fights.
Yeah,
so I kind of missed the way he did it.
But you missed. Didn't he force people to fight?
Well, I'm not. No, I don't like the methods. I don't like the methods.
Oh, okay.
The sausage, the way they made the sausage was disgusting.
Oh, okay.
But the results you can't argue with.
Gotcha. Okay.
It is what it is, man.
All right.
But I thought we got more interesting fights out of that. Sorry, it's also a different time, right?
There wasn't a fight every week.
There wasn't different. Well, they've had a lot of years where they've had high 30s, low 40s fights, even when Joe Silva was around, but less of them. More of them since Joe Silva left, right? At any rate, I did enjoy this fight. I thought it was fun, and I was looking forward to this fight anyway, so not too bad. As far as patchwork, late shifting jobs go, right?
Mm.
But realistically, I think more people were interested in Tatiana Suarez's return anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Out of this whole card, I think that was the more there's the main event, but what's the main attraction? I think the main attraction was Tatiana Suarez.
Yeah, I agree.
For a lot of people, at least who know the
that
sport.
Was for
right?
me. That was why I was most interested in that.
How do you think she looked?
She looked good enough for a return after being out for 4 years.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
So,
if you were to give it a score 1 to 10, it's not a 10. Solid 8 maybe.
Well, I'll go a 7.
The reason I go to 8 there is my thing is she got the win and she got the finish.
Yeah, that's 5.
That's a big. I think that's a pretty big part of it.
Okay.
And I think she showed some impressive stuff there. But yes, there's a way to go, I think. She's got a little bit of catching up to do.
It was up a weight class.
It is. But Montana De La Rosa isn't necessarily the strongest fighter out there.
No.
In terms of strength, I'm saying not in terms of as a quality of opponent.
She struggled to take her down. She basically resorted to a guard pull.
And that's my point.
So
my point is that that's part of the problem. But I still feel like an 8 is warranted here.
Right.
I think she should be happy with this. The way it went, everything could have gotten a lot worse. Being out 4 years.
could have gone a lot worse.
So I would say I'm good with my 8 here.
Okay.
7's fine. Whatever.
Right.
It's a number.
Fair
It
enough.
doesn't really matter. The point is, I think we were both pretty satisfied, but could have seen more. Would have liked to have seen more. Right. Next time.
Yeah, well, I want to. I'm not going to really grade her until she's back at 115. So
I don't love the idea of her going back to 115, or at least I didn't. Now, having seen her at 125, I wonder if maybe there's just issues with her size and stuff like that. If she can get to 115 very comfortably, that's fine.
Well, that's what they were saying. They were saying she's going to 115. She just wanted to
I'd heard that.
not have to deal with a cut for this first fight back.
Right, but the question is, how much does she cut to get down there? I don't know. She seemed pretty big back when she used to get fighting at 115. I thought she was a pretty large woman down there.
I don't know. She's a wrestler. She's used to it. I don't know what they're going to do.
She's had a lot of health issues is kind of the worry,
All right.
But if she can get down there, I am curious to see what impact she could make at 115. That would be, if she can get right, I think she's the biggest threat over the next 2 years, maybe even, to Zhang Weili.
Zhang Weili might be champ for a while.
I think things are lining up
So-
in a way that Zhang Weili could really cement herself as potentially the best strawweight champion we've ever had.
Yeah, and then who knows if they'll ever do the fight with Rose again.
Yeah, that would be weird. I mean, it's obviously she's the champion. You can't not make that fight if Rose wins enough.
Mhm.
Realistically, if Rose
Yeah.
goes out there and she gets a good win, they might just have to make the trilogy fight. But I wonder, you never know with Rose Namajunas. She has not always done things the way you expect things to be done, right? In her career. Sometimes she fights a lot. Sometimes we kind of see her dip for a bit.
Disappears for a little while.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're coming up on 9 months now. I think it's been 9 months since that fight she lost to Carlos Barza. We haven't seen her.
We've seen Pat Barry though.
We've seen Pat Barry. That's true.
Yeah.
He's been coaching some fighters. But Pat Barry, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat Barry is not Rose Namajunas.
Correct.
Let's make sure.
But maybe she sees him on TV coaching. She's like, oh, I want to get back in there.
She's got a lot of other pursuits. I know she's very interested in like helping people and like doing like nature projects and things like that. She wants to teach. I could imagine her just kind of being like, you know what? I could be good doing that other stuff too.
I'm over it.
She might.
Yeah,
And if
possibly.
she's over it, and if she is, and I'm just totally throwing the idea out there of maybe, but we don't know. Good for her.
Yeah.
Get in, get out, make your money and go. That's all I had to say really about these main cards and or these fights and things like that, other than the contested rounds we're about to get to. But we should highlight the numbers, which are distinctly different from UFC and Bellator. UFC had 17 rounds, 14 of them unanimous, and none of them were 8-9 splits here. We had the one unanimous 8. Bellator had 42 rounds to score among 18 fights, and 32 of them were unanimous. So that means obviously there were 10 contested rounds here. But out of 42, the percentage is still 76.2. That's better than usual.
That's good.
And over at UFC, it was 82.4. So just a hair better too. I think what that means is we had some real good judging on the whole.
We had good judging all over.
Out of 59 rounds and 13 contested rounds, Dan and I decided to shave off a couple of the Bellator ones. We tend to do all the UFC. Bellator, we picked and chose a little bit. We'll get to those in a bit. Let's get to the 3 from the UFC first. Oh, by the way, there were 3 8-9 splits on Bellator too. So really, there were only 7 dissents out of 42. Because when we talk about dissents, that word that we have given is more about when you side with one fighter or the other as opposed to the degree to which they won the round. So 7 out of there is a real good percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a great job over in Ireland there. Real great teams on both sides of the pond. But let's get to UFC, and let's start with the split decision that we had on the prelims. Ode Osborne got the win over Charles Johnson, split the first 2 rounds unanimously, and then round 3 is where there was actually a split round. 29-28 all around as a result. So round 3, Dan, what happened to decide this fight?
Yeah, a very close round. I thought both guys landed some shots early. Nothing really all that heavy. A couple of grappling exchanges that I thought Osborne was getting the better of. Both guys very tired. Really have nothing on any of their strikes. I don't really recall flyweights being this gassed or getting that gas so hard. I think
Technically, they're not flyweights. This was 130 pounds.
they're flydom weights.
They're I like that.
So yeah, Osborne got the late takedown. He landed some strikes. I just think it's really close. Some of the strikes that Johnson were landing later on, it seemed like Osborne's head was going back a little bit, but it also felt like these strikes almost had nothing on them. I thought it was a really close round, but I sided on Osborne 10-9.
Yeah, I can understand your logic there, especially just because how much energy are we really generating out of these strikes? But I didn't value a whole lot of what Osborne did to begin with either.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not a sensational round overall, right? But I went the other way. I did go Johnson. I kind of ended up siding with what he did late in that round to kind of tip it over because I was mostly on Osborne up until that point. I said, you know what? I think in a round like this where there just doesn't have a ton happening, I think Johnson was able to tip the scale.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
So I have Charles Johnson as my flyweight champion. You have Ode Osborne as your flyweight.
I do.
Flyweight? Flyweight.
Flydom
Yeah.
yeah.
I like it.
Fun fact,
Mm-hmm.
the first loss that Johnson ever got comes from Sean Santella.
Oh, I didn't realize
His
that.
very first loss.
I have another fun fact. Charles Johnson is also the name of the Florida Marlins catcher when they won the World Series in 1997.
Oh,
and
look
I
at that.
loved Charles Johnson. One of my favorite players.
Yeah, that was a good year.
Great
Oh,
defensive catcher.
97. That's because the Yankees messed it up, but
That's true because they lost to the
lost to the Indians.
Lost to the Indians. We beat in 7 games, including one of the I think it was actually the coldest World Series game ever. It was like
Really?
Game 6. Yeah, it was like 30 degrees or
Wow.
something. I forget. I was a kid, but I definitely remember it being really cold. I stayed up to watch that Game 7 that went into extras, and Craig Counsell crosses the plate. Edgar Renteria's hit. Parents let me stay up on a school night.
Nice.
Jumping around. I still remember it. That was great. But anyway, on the next, do you want to talk World Series or do you want to talk fights?
Is that a serious question?
Well, I know which way you'll go, so let's go to the fights.
All right.
I'll take the choice away. Let's get back to the fights. Brendan Allen, of course, got the win over Andre Muniz that we talked about earlier via round 3 rear naked choke submission, which is, I mean, let's face it, if we're talking about ways that Brendan Allen was going to beat Andre Muniz, I would not have said round 3 submission.
Mm-hmm.
My guy Eric Richter said, I think he said it was like whatever the odds were, it translates to like a 4% chance or something like that.
Oh, because that's like 25 to 1, yeah.
Yeah, I forget what it was. I'll pull it up while we're talking here. But yeah, damn, this is a split round here. What in first round? Excuse me. What was happening in the first round?
Both guys were exchanging inside leg kicks. Both landed pretty good to the head. It's a very close round. Muniz probably landed the cleanest, hardest shot of the round. But I think Allen slightly wobbles Muniz, so, that's the factor for me. Muniz was good to the body. Allen really wasn't that great to the body, but he did have a nice body kick to the body. But the fact that Allen...
A body kick to the body, you say?
Yeah, more redundant.
These things happen. These things happen.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Very close round, but I do think Muniz being wobbled puts it over for me for Allen, 10-9.
Yeah, I definitely felt pretty good about an Allen round here. I know people were saying it was close. I didn't end up watching this over again, and I do respect that this was a close enough round. I felt pretty good at the time to give this one to Allen, and so that's what I did. I thought for the same reason. I thought that he kind of clipped him there a little bit, and I thought overall he was just doing a better job in the striking department. So, no, I didn't really give too much thought to Muniz here. I don't know if I was discounting him or what. Maybe I was. Did you think it was close round?
I thought it was very close.
Did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I trust your judgment on this one because you watched it later, obviously. By the way, I don't think I mentioned on the last fight that you sided with Chris Lee and Anthony Manus and Osborne, and I sided with Junichiro Kamijo.
Okay.
This fight, you and I sided with Allen, same as David Lethaby and Ron McCarthy. It was Chris Lee on the island himself with Andre Muniz. But again, you're saying it's close.
I think it's close.
I will totally trust you here. Absolutely. I just did not get the chance to watch this one again as much as I would have liked to. But I will say before we move on from this fight, Dan, Eric Richter, again, my colleague at the Post, said it was 40-1 round 3 submission, which translates to 2.44% chance.
Okay.
40-1. Maybe that guy who lost all that money betting Muniz should have put it on Brendan Allen. They put that on the broadcast. 117,000.
Yeah.
People are dumb. Don't do that with your money. There are other things you can do with your money.
Yeah.
Give it to me. I will find a good way to use it. There are a lot of projects in my home that I could use that on. I want a deck. Yeah.
Get Scott a deck, please.
Yeah, please.
Stop
don't wait. Don't give it to DraftKings. They don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need it. So send me your money. Anyway, moving on to the last of the UFC rounds that we're going to talk about. Contested rounds, I should say. Narillo Aliyev, right? Aliyev,
I guess.
yeah.
I don't really
all day
know.
strong, all day long. Got the win over Rafael Alves, 30-27 twice and a 29-28. So we're only talking about, well, actually, no, I have that wrong, right? Because there was a point deduction.
There was a point deduction.
So it was
29-27 twice.
Thank you.
And 28-28.
I transcribed that wrong. It was a majority decision. Goofy guy over here. Majority decision by the scores that Dan said. Dan, I should stop talking. Why don't you go for this? What's happening in round 1 that's split?
Yes. Alves lands a left hook, and then he gets taken down, and from here, he's just stuck in the grinder. Aliyev doesn't really do much in terms of ground and pound, but I do think his grappling is probably the most effective offense of the round. Aliyev is trying to pass and keeping Alves down, who clearly doesn't want to be there. Alves, they have some weird issues going on right now where he gets bit somehow.
Yeah.
And a point's taken. There's no clear view of what happened. I think it was probably 2 fouls on a foul on each guy. Alves was probably fish hooking him, and Aliyev was like, "I'm gonna bite you if you keep your finger in my mouth." That's what it looks like to me. Maybe. I don't really know. But
I didn't get that out of it, to be honest.
He ends up losing a point. And, back on the feet, nothing really happened after Alves does get, because he loses the position, so it's back on the feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Aliyev lands a clinch elbow, but really nothing else happened that round. I think it's an Aliyev round 10-9.
Almost nothing happened in that round, like almost entirely, except for a finger being bit.
Yeah.
On the official numbers, the significant strikes, of course, which are crap. Aliyev actually landed 0.
Okay.
Yeah. They gave him 9 total strikes, and I think, when you remember back that round, we're thinking about kind of those punches to the body, those, I don't know how digging they were, but he was trying to get some body punches in there. Those count. I actually didn't think it was that bad, some of those things he was landing to the body there a little bit, giving a little bit of work to there. I'm not saying it was going to finish the fight, but realistically, it was less. I thought it was less, or I should say more than pitter-patter.
Okay.
More than pitter-patter, but maybe not quite to the point where it was like, oh, those are good strikes, On the whole, I went with Aliyev, too.
All right.
It was a weird round for a lot of reasons,
strange.
including a bite. But yeah, so we sided with Aliyev and Adelaide Bird, Junichiro Kamijo. Ron McCarthy was on his own seeing this one for Alves, but so little happens in it. It's like, sure, no problem. Ron, you want to go that way? Be my guest. That is fine. Let's talk a little more about that bite, though, because I thought it was interesting the way they kind of operated it, right? So he's saying, oh, he bit me, right? Mm-hmm. He's showing his finger, showing there's a mark. Mark Smith, the referee, is acknowledging there's a mark. They go to the replay. Chris Tognoni is the replay ref, I believe they were saying, right? Was Chris Tognoni?
Yeah.
And ultimately they go through the review. Jeff Mullen comes up and communicates to Mark Smith that they didn't see it on the video. They couldn't find it on the video. We couldn't find it either when UFC was trying to pull it up as well. But nonetheless, they, the sole arbiter, the referee, made the decision to take the point. It was interesting because, like you're saying, maybe there's some fish hooking going on.
I don't know.
Because if that's the case, I mean, yeah, it's almost like committing a foul, and you're alleging something here.
This is what I'm just saying. What it looks like to me. I mean, the guy's hands over his face.
I couldn't.
Finger could be in there.
I didn't quite get that out of that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're right. But I didn't get that out of it when I was watching. I couldn't figure out what was going on because I didn't think they got a good camera angle at it. Everything's very compressed, right? There's only so many cameras in that place, and a lot of them have to shoot through fences and things, which any judge would tell you is not the best way to watch these fights. Sometimes these angles with the fencing, right? Mm-hmm. It was a weird situation because we're all kind of just working off of like, hey, there is a bite mark here, but it's like, but why did the bite mark get there? Like you suggest at the very least. What if you're right? What if there was fish that created the scenario where he could bite him? Don't the penalties offset?
I think
football terminology.
I didn't really care for this point take, for being honest.
It was weird.
Because what are you gonna do in a situation? You're going for a rear naked choke. You're over the guy's mouth and you're digging your forearm into his teeth, and he gets out, and then you come out, and now you got bite marks on your arm. Are we taking a point there? Because you're crushing his face. Like if you see him actually chomp down on a finger, yeah, disqualification at that point actually. But just because we see a mark, it could have happened anyway.
I had a thought when I was watching this kind of scenario play out. What if, devil's advocate here, and I'm not even saying he did this, but what if a fighter says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bite my finger before I go out there. I'm going to leave a mark. And if I need to, I'm going to call him out on it.
Well,
just try to get it in there. You never know. I'm not saying they get away with it because that's a big risk. But I mean, shoot, fighters will look for any edge, right?
Yeah, ace up the sleeve.
Now you're not playing the percentages to try and get a point deduction in an MMA fight, to be perfectly honest, right? It's not exactly a high percentage scenario where they actually do take the point. I think we're more surprised than not that Mark Smith actually did take a point here. But it is interesting. If they couldn't see how it happened, what do you do? It's a weird thing, right?
It's strange.
Like I said, I'm devil's advocate here, and I'm not making that is not an allegation.
When I saw the scorecard and I saw a 1 point deduction for a biting, my was like, huh? Why wasn't it just
you perked up?
Why wasn't it just a DQ?
Well,
and then I got to the situation. I said, all right,
it's just a finger.
This is weird.
Ronnie Lott played well. His finger got after his finger got amputated, but that was between weeks. It's like you can be out the rest of the season or you can play next week. Take the finger.
Get rid of it.
Tis merely a scratch. That is it though for UFC. Again, very mild here. I don't think anybody was up in arms even about the split decision. Anode Osborne, right?
No, I don't. Well, I wasn't really on social media.
Oh, okay.
So
I mean, I really wasn't either. I had a busy day too, and I was playing a lot of catch up. But yeah, well, let's move over to the Bellator side. We selected.
Well, we got one more round, right? Don't we?
What?
10-7 watch.
Oh, we'll do that at the end.
Oh, that's the end.
Let's do that.
I got you. Okay.
We'll keep it contested rounds, and then we'll go back, circle back to the 10-7
Gotcha.
watch. But you're right, we do. Over on the Bellator side, we selected 3 fights. 2 from the main card, 1 from the prelims. And we'll start with the one on the prelims, which was a split decision. Brian Moore getting the win over Luka Iovine.
Relation to Jimmy?
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, at some point, it's probably the similar clan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming, but you never know. My guess is no. Split decision victory. And this is actually an alternative decision because the 2 split rounds in this fight were won by Iovine on 2 of 3 cards, but he still lost the split decision. So let's that's why I wanted to target this fight. Anytime you get that alternative decision, I'm like, let's talk about this one. So let's talk about this one. Round 2 first.
Yeah.
Because the first round was a Brian Moore round.
Okay. Moore's doing well fighting going backwards. I felt he was doing really well countering. Iovine not really landing early. He was going forward, but I don't think he was really landing there. He finally does land that one good right. He has a good body kick. Moore's landing more, but, heavier shots.
Moore's landing more, you say?
Yes, he is. He's landing the more volume.
And a body kick to the body?
And yes, but I think Iovine may be landing slightly heavier. He has him running backwards after a connection at one point, but I still don't think Iovine is ahead by a large margin. Probably a small margin here. Gets the takedown, throws some punches here, but nothing really lands except that one shot that we have a terrible angle at. But I imagine it landed, but I can't see how good it landed. I don't know. But
I wonder if some judges had a better angle than the cameras, because that does happen.
So, I mean, they scramble a bit. Ivine's kind of on the back, no hooks, grabbing the neck, no real danger there, or sub-threat. They fight back to the feet before action stops for a low blow. Brian Miner issues the hard warning. Final minute they spend on the feet, and I think Moore takes the round in this final minute. I think he lands some heavy shots, busted open the eye of Iovine, and I don't think he really did much in return to that. So I like Moore in a close round, 10-9.
I was very torn here for that reason. Anytime you get like a late push in a round where not a ton happened, it's always going to make you be like, well, I don't know. Now, I wouldn't even say a ton happened from Moore in the last minute either, right? It's not a big minute, but he lands well. You know what I mean?
He landed good.
It's not like anyone would undeniably be like, yeah, he took the round. Obviously, he stole the round. We've seen that before. I didn't think that happened here.
All right.
I thought it was very close. I was torn. I didn't quite go over the hump like you did, so I stuck with Iovine, which again was the majority score here. Eric Colon, Sal D'Amato saw it my way, and you saw it the same as Paul Sutherland.
Yeah.
UK judge. Round 3, though, is also split. And once again, Iovine is the majority score here. What happened?
So Iovine landed pretty solid early on, and then he decided he's going to get a takedown. Lands some ground and pound here, nothing too big. Moore's being active, but it's more of, just kind of hipping out, trying to create something, not really doing much in terms of actually getting a submission or setting anything up. Eventually, Iovine takes the back and just kind of hangs out here, maybe a couple pitter-patter shots. Moore escapes with around, 30 seconds left, knows he needs to land heavy, lands 2 good elbows, and is, he's swinging for the fences. I think he definitely wins the final 30 seconds of the fight. Was it enough to surpass what Ivine's early stand-up and grappling? I don't really think it does, but it's very close. But I side with Iovine 10-9.
And see, this time I actually did think it was enough to put him over.
Okay.
This type of round is very much it's almost like a Rorschach test. You just you see what you see, right? Close round, undeniably. This is not one of those split decisions anybody should get up in arms about. It's unfortunate when it looks this way, and you've got one argument saying, hey, obviously the official way you score it, 2 judges gave it to Moore. But then you have the other way that said, hey, the judges gave collectively 2 out of the 3 rounds to Iovine. It felt like that, too.
Okay.
This fight is what I'm saying. Is like, this felt kind of like, yeah, I could see how it could go both ways. You totally could see it. It's unfortunate one has to lose, but that's just the way it went. So I saw this one the same way as Eric Colon. You saw it as Judges D'Amato and Sutherland. So your card actually was in lockstep with Paul Sutherland, and I don't want to say in cahoots. I almost said in cahoots because it's not like I was working with Eric Colon here. But yes, I saw it the same way as him. I imagine we don't see everything the same way, though, because, Taylor Ham is North Jersey. As we know, pork roll is a cuss word, and that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. But that was it for the prelims that we wanted to talk about. There were some more, but we kind of left them alone. Let's skip over to the main card here, and we're going to start with the curtain jerker of the main card. Kieran Clark got a dominant victory over Leonardo Sinise, 30-26 on all 3 cards, but there were 2 rounds that got 10-8 splits, so that's why we're talking about it. So let's start with round 1.
Yeah, round 1, Clark gets a takedown pretty, right away. I think he's landing heavy, but he's inside the guard, so I think some of the shots in return from Sinise are actually pretty solid. He's throwing off his back. Not nearly as hard as Clark, but still pretty good. Clark is landing a lot of punches, though. It's basically one-way traffic. Problem is he's not trying to advance his position. Eventually he does pass the side control, and then he's on the back with the body triangle. I think Clark just kind of barely makes it over the line for an 8. So I'm on an 8, 10-8 for Clark.
It was close, right? It really was. But it felt different, It just felt different. I think you can check the Ds here. I think you definitely have dominance for sure. And I think you have good duration on this too. And I think the damage is close enough. It's not quite like that heavy damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I feel like this round stands out from a 10-9.
Yeah, well, there's only one way to score this round for one fighter, meaning.
Of course.
So
of course, it's Clark. Clark won the round. We know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clark won every round of this fight. No one was debating that. We were really even the broadcast team was just kind of like, well, how many 10-8s are in here? Let's find out. And it turned out there was 1 to 2, or none to 2, technically speaking. But yeah, I thought this was an 8. Ultimately, kind of a borderline 8, probably a CSJ 8 as opposed to a CSJ 7. Kind of one of those like didn't quite get there, but this is definitely a different round.
Yeah.
So I felt like an 8 was warranted here. So you and I both had it that way. Same as Eric Colon, same as Ben Cartledge. Round 2. What about it?
Similar round. Clark gets his takedown immediately, and he moves to mount, but it's a real low mount. It's like almost he did it on purpose, so the body would be a target from mount. Not really sure on that. Maybe I don't know if it's something they train or philosophy has on the mount. But I think he's going body head, but I think they're really hard body and really hard head. The problem here is there's a lull for a while where Sinise isn't taking much damage while Clark is kind of trying to get around to the back or pass to a better position. Eventually he kind of gives up on that, I guess, and he hears the clacker and just starts raining elbows. And the elbows here will put it over for me for the 8. So 10-8.
Yeah, again, this is probably another one that would qualify in that middle ground. 10-8.5, some people will say, right? This felt like another. I think both of these are 10-8.5. I think you can get there, though. I think you can get to the 8. Yeah. I think there's more duration, and I think there's more dominance. But I think there's actually less damage.
So I thought there was heavy damage.
I think at the very end there is.
Yeah.
But like,
on the whole, I think the damage is better in round 2 than round 1.
I guess maybe you can make that. Yeah, maybe I'm just misremembering, to be honest.
Okay.
I watched these both back to back, and if they were so similar, like you said, I didn't take as good of notes. So I'll be honest there. Either way, I still think both of these are kind of those 10-8.5 kind of things. So, which accounts for the fact that we're split here, right?
Yeah.
So because it was judges Colon and Cartledge, once again, same judges had the majority score. They had it as a 9. Judge D'Amato gave it the 8. You and I gave it the 8. What does that mean for Judge D'Amato?
Couchside over.
Was that one extra annoying?
No.
Okay, good.
That was a good one.
I think other people at home might disagree. I'm sorry if you don't like it. I do it out of love and passion. Passion for the horn. I don't know. I'm goofy, man. I've had a weird weekend. Did I tell you what I did a Friday night too? Friday night was the Nas concert.
Oh, that was a concert.
Yeah. I went to see the GOAT level rapper Nas at Madison Square Garden.
Any surprise guests?
Yeah, I had a few people come out. Mary J. Blige popped out for a little bit. Slick Rick
Really?
Yeah, I bumped fists with Slick Rick afterward.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was walking by. He was coming out, and I just kind of went over and I was like, "Hey, thank you." My
Nice.
brother-in-law. I went with my brother-in-law. He was trying to get a picture, but
Oh,
Slick
okay.
Rick was just walking away. I'm
Okay.
like, leave the guy alone.
So Slick Rick and Mary J came out?
Yep.
Nice.
I mean, among others, but yeah, those were
Who
those
else?
were Oz
I don't know Oz.
or AZ.
Oh, AZ. Okay,
AZ.
no,
I would
yeah.
say Oz. I was an old
Uh,
habit. AZ. Yeah. Who else came in? Hit Boy is the collaborator he often works with right now.
Okay.
So he was out there for a minute too. I'm blanking. There was someone else. One thing was really nice though, because it was at Madison Square Garden.
Mm.
DJ Green Lantern, by the way, was the warm up act.
Oh, okay.
So he had everybody rocking. That was fun. But late in the concert, because he did half of the material was his new stuff, like from the last 3 albums, The King's Disease,
Okay.
1, 2, and 3, and then the other half was like the old school stuff everybody loves.
Okay.
And when he did One Mic, One Mic?
Yeah.
You like that one?
I like that one a lot.
One Mic. He does One Mic, and he was starting to get emotional. You could tell. And then afterward, he was saying, "My mom's here tonight, and she used to work across the street from the garden at the post office."
Oh, nice.
So it was a really cool thing for him. You kind of felt that, right?
Yeah.
Nice shout out to his mom. And then the next track he plays is Uchiwali, which, as you know, is a little more raunchy. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, get out there, thank mom, and then, all right, that will move on.
Thanks, Ma.
Yeah, that was good.
Put your earphones in now.
But that was a cool concept. I've had not as much sleep. It's been a busy weekend.
Busy week.
Yeah, I never sleep, but this was particular. But it was a good weekend. One more Bellator round we'll go over was the Bryce Logan first round win. Well, second round win. First round was split over Peter Queally. TKO victory. Elbows and punches thrown in there. Ref has to stop it. Round 1 is split. So why are we thinking about this round?
I mean, it's a decently close round. I mean, Logan landed a couple good strikes, busted open Quilly's nose a bit. But I think on the whole, Queally was more immediately impactful, evident by wobbling Logan. I think he definitely put a stamp on it at the end of the round doing so. But, I didn't think he had the lead prior to that, so maybe it's a little closer.
I guess it could be. I don't think this is a bad score to split it. Excuse me.
I'm leaving that in. I'm not looking for that.
How dare you? How dare you? Yeah, I didn't think it was a bad score or anything like that, but I felt pretty good about Queally getting this round.
Yeah, me too.
I thought he was landing with much more impact throughout. Close but clear, or just close?
I mean, close, bordering clear.
Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah, we're almost there. We're not quite in the point where we're not
Yeah.
being able to finish. Yeah, so that's all right. So yeah, we'll absolve Paul Sutherland. I think this is fine.
Yeah.
To give that one to Logan. But we saw it much more comfortably for judges Marcel Varela and Eric Colon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all we wanted to kind of go over from Bellator. We got the 10-7 watch still, though, like you wanted to talk about. We're going to talk about from UFC on the prelims. Jasmine Jasdavicius got the what?
Vicious Jazzy.
Jasdavicius.
Yeah.
Jasdavicius.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. She got the win over Gabriela Fernandez, 30-26 on all 3 cards, because round 2 was a unanimous 10-8. But the question I have is, should Chris Lee, David Letheby, or Ron McCarthy have maybe considered going to the 7 here?
No.
Why not?
Well, we got overwhelming dominance for sure on the ground. Fernandez has nothing for her, no idea what to do, and she's just stuck in a crucifix eating elbows. I think the damage is there. I just don't think it's overwhelming. Many elbows, but none really that big. Solid duration. I just don't think damage or duration are overwhelming, so I think the 10-8 is perfect.
Yep, I'm good with it too. I don't think we're not watching an uncomfortable level of damage, and I think that's what you kind of start to really look for when you're starting to move into the 7 territory. Is the damage starts to get to be like, oh damn, and we didn't see that.
No.
So very solid 8, but an 8 nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for the rounds. Finish-wise, we had 6 finishes each on the UFC and Bellator. UFC had a higher percentage because they only had, I think, 11 fights when it really came down to it. Bellator obviously had 18. And no post-lims, by the way. They got all the prelims.
They got them all
They
in.
did every prelim. Yep. They did a good job with that. But yeah, UFC had 2 TKOs or KOs, 4 submissions, yet again, more subs than strike-based finishes. This is wild. The trend just won't go away.
Maybe we'll just...
Have we turned a corner in the sport?
Maybe
We have not.
it's a small cage.
I don't know about that. I mean, didn't this even happen in Australia? I'm trying to remember.
Possibly.
I think it actually happened in Australia too.
Okay.
They use big cage down
Which
under.
makes him. I don't understand. Why they don't just put a big cage in the apex?
Or they just do a small cage everywhere.
I guess.
Why? I guess the question I've always had is why are we doing two different ones? Why not just do one? Make them uniform. You want to switch the smaller one? Switch the smaller one. People seem to like it. Just pick one.
I don't know if people. I mean,
you like it. I thought.
I do like it. I do like it, but I don't think Stipe liked it against Francis.
He probably didn't. But it's an entertainment-based product.
Yeah, sure.
So there you go. And if you're gonna stick a bunch of heavyweights on the middle of main cards all the freaking time, I'm looking at you, Augusto Sakai and Dante Almaze.
That was
That was a fight that happened.
I actually watched that entire fight because I didn't know which rounds were split.
Yeah.
And I was just glad that it was one way.
You should have asked me.
So.
Just before you watch a heavyweight fight that you're going to go back and watch, just ask me.
Yeah.
Is there a round here? I can save you some time.
It was an okay fight, though. It wasn't great.
Ask me two questions. You ask me, is there a round here? And does it go past round one? I'll give you those two.
Well, I can figure out that by the time the length of
I
it.
guess that's true.
Yeah.
You see the length of the timestamps and everything like that. But yeah, so in each fight, by the way, each fight card had 3 first-round finishes. I should say Bellator had 5 TKOs. No straight, KO. It was all 5 KOs. Excuse me, TKOs. And then 1 submission. But which among those 12 finishes was your favorite?
Tatiana Suarez, guillotine over Montana De La Rosa. 4 years away. Come back at a finish. I don't know if she can ask for more.
But only a 7 on the rating.
Yeah, because I wasn't blown away.
I understand.
She struggled in the wrestling department and had to resort to that.
Sure. She had to resort to finishing the fight. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the way in a secondary way.
I understand.
So.
I understand. I'm teasing you, of course. Yeah, I think for me that was my favorite finish too, but I wanted to pick something that was a lot more like, let's say, fun well, fun for somebody. Joe Selecki chokes out Carl Deaton unconscious. 5 seconds to go in round 2. Rear naked choke. You can see him. He's like trying to throw up a hand, and all of a sudden it just
he's
just
out.
dead. He's out. He went out. He went down very quickly. I feel like this is a type of fight, a type of finisher that I would show somebody who, like, if they watch a movie, they're like, you can't choke someone unconscious that quickly. I'm like, oh yeah, watch this. I know there's been quicker. Like I've had that like thought before. I'm like, this is the fight I'm going to show people. Be like, no, it's actually more realistic than you think. Snapping neck's a little different though.
Can't snap the neck.
It's not happening. But that's all I have for UFC Bellator Saturday Extravaganza.
Yeah, let's move on to this amazing.
We've wanted to talk about this a couple times. Yeah, UFC 285. It's a stacked card, top to bottom.
Stack card.
Really good. This is the one that, I mean, because it's stacked. Even the prelims, I wouldn't say the prelims are the reason why you buy it, but even the main card is very good. It's a really, really.
The prelims are why you buy it.
No,
you
I'm
just
saying
said
no.
that.
No, I was saying no. You wouldn't just buy it because of the prelims.
I got you.
But the prelims are even stacked too. But also
Yeah.
the main card is as well. Sorry, I said that wrong. It's been a weekend, man. It's been a busy weekend. A good one, but a busy one.
Good.
John Jones is back. 3 years away. He's been dealing with weight gain.
He's been gaining weight.
He's been dealing with weight gain, yes.
He's getting fat. He's ready to go.
Yeah, he doesn't look fat.
No, he's big boy. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, the legs are still skinny, but what are you going to do?
He is finally not getting made fun of at the family get-togethers by his brothers.
Yeah.
For being the small guy.
Yeah, but he could always have beaten them up.
Who knows? Size is a great
I tend to
equalizer.
favor the greatest fighter, fighting talent of all time.
Yeah, I mean, sure, probably.
He'd probably beat his older brothers who are not fighters. I think he'd do that.
Not if it was 2-on-1.
That would be tougher. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I bet you it's more like a free-for-all.
So, like, a triple threat?
Yeah.
That'd be wild.
That would be wild. That would be interesting to see. We're not having that, though. This weekend, it's him against Cyril Gahn for the UFC heavyweight title to determine the number 2 heavyweight in the world. You like this fight?
To determine the number 2 heavyweight in the world.
Correct.
I don't know.
Number 1 heavyweight in the world is Francis Ngannou.
Sure.
But do you like this fight?
I do.
Yeah.
I like this fight. Yeah. I think John Jones, like I've said this many times, I think he got bored at light heavyweight.
I don't think you're wrong.
It's
also been a long time since he wasn't bored and he was fighting. It's been like almost 6 years.
I'm expecting John
5
Jones
years.
to be spectacular.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm expecting.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about this one. I could see this going any of 2 ways. I think if he decides he wants to take it down, it's his fight to lose. But I think if he starts playing around a little bit and doing kind of because again, we've gotten used to seeing him fight in a way that I thought was maybe a little less engaged, right? At light heavyweight.
Yeah.
We've gotten used to that. How much of that is actually him just not being as good as he used to be? What if that's really the case? We're writing it off, but what if it's real?
Until someone proves that.
Well,
I can't say that.
we've got, 5 days until we find out.
We will find out next Saturday. John Jones won me over at your apartment years ago when he finished. He almost had the Americana.
He almost got the Americana at my
And
house.
then
That's right.
he did get the Americana
At my
against
house.
Vitor Belfort. Yeah.
In my living room.
Yeah. So I'm expecting to be blown away the same way I was blown away that night.
I am not expecting that.
So-
I mean, if he goes out there and wins, I wouldn't be surprised. If he looked impressive, sure. I'm not quite as
Maybe
gutsy as you on that one.
possibly Gustafsson too violent finish. Possibly.
See, that's the John Jones that I thought we would see more of when he did come back and he did beat Gustafsson. Even before that fight, I was kind of hopeful. I asked him about it because I'd asked him at that time. I said, you used to have just like this devastating ground and pound. We haven't seen that as much lately. And I'm not saying I planted the idea, but it did happen right after. I was like, oh, this is what I was hoping for.
I thought that was more of Gustafsson kept bringing up the picograms to him, and he's like, I'm gonna make you eat those words.
Yeah,
and just pummel your face.
Well, he should start doing that more often.
So that's where
pummeling faces is like a good way to make money.
I'm just very excited to see him fight again.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are. Obviously, he's a complicated character, but I think the sport's more interesting when he's involved than when he's lifting weights for 3 years and getting into trouble in Vegas with his wife.
Been training with Cejudo.
Fiance.
That's been a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things have happened.
Yeah.
It's been... We launched our show with the first episode about John Jones' last fight. We've been on the air. This is just about 3 years since we've had this podcast. We're this week is the 3-year anniversary of our launch. And just now, John Jones is coming back.
Yeah. Look at that.
It's weird. It's a
284
weird full circle thing.
228
This is 229, I believe. Yeah.
Bookends, but we're not ending.
No.
So.
No, we've only just begun.
Yeah. We got a good co-main now.
I love the co-main. Valentina Shevchenko. I think she's actually going to put on a really good performance here. I think Alexa Grasso, as talented as she is, I think she probably just isn't in the right class here. Famous last word, but Valentina Shevchenko, I think she's probably more motivated now by the women in her division. I think there's some interest now.
So that's what I was about to ask you. Do you think Blanchfield looking as impressive as she did would make her more interested in that fight, or do you think she'd be more interested in fighting Nunes?
I think there is some interest in Nunes. I don't think she feels the need to do it.
Okay.
Because when you ask her about it, sometimes she gets a little touchy. But like, why does everybody want me to do this? Why does everyone want me to do this? I have other things to do. I'm the champion here.
Okay.
Talk about that. But then also you hear her sometimes be like, yeah, if this is a fight everybody wants, I could take that. So like, I feel like she kind of is just happy to do one or the other. She doesn't really mind. But to answer your question, I think people like Ernst Blanchfield, Manon Fiorot, I think these are women of interest to her. I think now we've even seen that the fight with Tyler Santos, as much as you and I agree, probably the scoring overall was close, but also the fight was kind of close, but not.
Right.
Even her, she's in the mix. She didn't lose anything. She bowed out of the last fight she was going to have with Ernst Blanchfield, but that last fight, I mean, it's still there. People remember it. People have an opinion of it that thinks, okay, if she goes out there and she beats somebody, hey, maybe she's back in there too.
Yeah.
And we had Valentina Shevchenko calling out Rin Nakai. I don't know if you know who that is. Do you remember who that is?
Not a clue.
She had one fight in the UFC. She's Japanese. I think she was the Deep Jewels champion for a while. I forget where she is champion now, but she just recently won. Her one fight in the UFC was a loss to Miesha Tate.
Okay.
Unanimous decision at 135. She's fighting at 25 now. But Shevchenko just the other day said, congratulations, you look good. Like, I'd love to see you test yourself in the UFC, more or less. I'm paraphrasing, but she'd like to see her kind of go in, pick a couple wins, and then maybe see her test herself. So who knows? She's got her eyes on her own division, though.
All right, so that's good then. I'm more interested in that anyway. So
I do want to see a trilogy fight because it was close enough, even though I'm prepared for it not even to be a good fight. But I do want it. I don't know. I just I think we need to have like a little closure in there because the last fight was so close and because there just aren't big major fights that we can make for especially Amanda Nunes.
Okay.
again, I think there's more interest now in Shevchenko.
Fair.
But Nunes has just beat everybody. And yeah, I mean, they could, in theory, do the trilogy with Juliana Pena, but I've talked about this before on the show. I don't see it going much better for Pena. I think she had her moment, and that was it. Judges for this one, of course, is going to be Nevada. We don't know who's going to be working, but there is no major fights in Bellator anywhere else. I imagine they will get the top crew, top men and women, potentially, in there. Not worried about the judging. I wonder who's going to be on the John Jones fight in particular, because I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do go the distance. We've just seen too much of it from Jones lately. And Gon, I mean, he's not the most impatient fighter. He'll let it go, right? We've seen it before. He's content to make a decision happen if he's winning the fight the way he wants to, right?
I mean, I'm 100% expecting this not to go to the cards. Not saying it can't happen.
Sure.
But I'm expecting it not to.
All right. We will see. But there's a lot of other fights here. I think I like the whole main card. We already talked about the two. Jeff Neal against Shavkat Rakhmonov. I already said what I think of Shavkat. Mateusz Gamrot and Jalen Turner. Really like Jalen Turner, too. I've been interested in his rise the last few years, too. He's been an interesting prospect, and I think he's getting closer to... I mean, he's probably shed the label now. He's kind of like a rising contender. You know, he's no longer a prospect. Yeah. Him and Gamrot's a fun fight. And Bo Nickel, very much a prospect. His first UFC fight against Jamie Pickett right here. That's a big jump into the... not Pickett's... I think it's not ranked or anything, but...
Basically...
It's somebody.
I mean, it's at 185, too. I think it was originally scheduled at 85. That's why. But I'm expecting... This is basically Bo Nickel. Seeing if he's the real deal or not, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So...
I know there's a little hate here for Bo Nickel from, I think, some other fellow fighters. They're like, yo, why is he on the pay-per-view here already?
Well...
Or maybe that was Rosas Jr. I think Raul Rosas Jr. is fighting on the main card next time there's a pay-per-view.
Okay.
Maybe that's what it was. I think I'm mixing the two up.
Either way. I mean, maybe.
We're still talking about super prospects here.
They could be selling Bo versus Shavkat soon. Who knows?
That
Not right away,
that would actually be
at some point.
That's a little interesting. I would very much favor Shavkat, though, right now.
I think... I'm not even going to say it.
But I do love this. You love this main card. I think every fight's so good.
Very good.
I like it. Prelims are really good, too. I like Derek Brunson and Dricus du Plessis.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a fun one. That definitely has some rankings implications here. Du Plessis could find himself in the contendership pretty soon, depending on how things shake out. Viviane Araújo against Amanda Ribas. Ribas still here at 125. I like this fight.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And then I'm very interested in Ian Gary, too. There's another prospect going against Song Kinan at 170.
Yeah, Ian Gary. They
I know he's doing a lot of the kind of the copying the Conor McGregor shtick, but I think he's doing it in a fun way that's not grating, at least to me.
I'm just talking about his fighting. Like, he was trying to get the rounds under his belt, right? He wanted to be able to go full 15 in his last fight.
Yeah.
He didn't want to, be a quick outing.
He looked better in his last fight than he had the previous fight, because the previous fight, I think, he left people a little underwhelmed. I think he did look better last time out.
So I wonder when he's just gonna, start trying to be a killer, or if he's still trying to get that, cage time under his belt or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, his debut at the Garden was pretty good for the UFC.
Yeah,
that looked some pretty killer stuff. I was there for it, so I think I just remember it a little bit better because I was there, and it sticks out in my mind.
I got you. I mean, yeah, but his past two fights went decision, so.
Yeah. But, hey, these things happen. Yeah, I think he probably does have to go out in there and start to really impress to kind of build a little more momentum behind him as a prospect. I think maybe there's a little bit of, at least, let's say, in the United States, things are different, obviously, in Europe. I think, especially the UK and Ireland guys, they really like to pay attention to their guys very much so. So, no one's going to feel any differently there. But I think here, people could lose track of him, especially here. He is definitely not the most interesting prospect on this card. He's just not, because it's Bo Nickel.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but yeah, I really like this fight. I like all these fights, really. I think I'm not saying every single fight's a banger, but it's a really good card, and I'm happy about it. This is, out of the 3 pay-per-views in 5 or 6 weeks or whatever the UFC is doing, this seems to be the most loaded to me.
Oh yeah, this one's stacked.
This is the good one. This is like, if you had to pick one, like if you couldn't afford to buy all 3, I'd say this is the one. If you were going to dead set on buying one, this is UFC 285.
Okay.
Sound fair?
Fair.
All right.
All right, that does it. We'll be back again on Monday to break down all these great, fantastic fights.
Yes, we will. I like the passion there. That's good.
They're going to be fantastic.
You think so?
I do.
We'll see if Dan eats crow, too.
I'm not eating any crow,
Yeah,
even if I'm wrong.
fair enough.
Thanks for listening.
Take care, everybody.